On today's episode of Alive and Thriving, we are going to be chatting about 3 ways that you can help minimize the daily stress and worries. This is Alive and Thriving, where we tackle all things that stand in the way of holistic well-being and self-care in life and as women in business. Join me for real and raw conversations and inspiring guests who are expert in their fields as we come back to life together, overcoming stress, anxiety, nourishing our mind, body, and emotions. I am your host, Jessica Reed, alternative therapist, life and wellbeing coach. And if you are ready to grow, heal, and thrive together, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Now, before I get started, depending on when you are listening to this episode, I would like to let you know that our next monthly tapping circle, so our EFT Empowerment Circle, is on Wednesday, the 8th of March. That's 2023, depending when you're listening. And it is an online event over Zoom. It is just $19 to come along live, and you can tap with us for an hour on the topic of managing daily stress and worries. Now, what we're going to talk today about is exactly that, managing daily stress and worries. And I want to share with you 3 strategies that you may like to try or you may like to implement into your life to see if it helps to take control over your daily worries. Now, the first thing that I'd like to acknowledge, and this may be a little confronting for some of you, depending on where you are at in terms of the anxiety that your thoughts bring you, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that what we think, what comes out of our brain, is a thought, and it is not a fact. It is not a fact. Okay, nothing that our mind is coming up with is completely original. It is all thoughts. None of it is a fact. And sometimes we can get so consumed with the things that are worrying us. And mainly that is because we are wired for safety. And if our brain is telling us that we have these things that are potentially harmful to our safety, even if they are things that are not physically harmful, okay, remembering that the brain doesn't know the difference between something perceived and something that is real. So a perceived threat or a real threat, it doesn't matter. It's still going to have the same stress response. So worrying about things, having all of these things to worry about, for some people is a way of protection. It's a way of them saying, okay, well, if I'm in control, if I know what's going on, if I give all of my attention and my energy to this thing, then I will have control over it and I will stay safe. Now, you don't necessarily have these conversations actively in your mind, but that could be what is sort of going on in your subconscious. Now, gaining control of these worrying thoughts, when you have had them, these thought patterns, this way of thinking, being how you have been for a really long time, it is going to take time and practice intervening. It is going to take time and practice interrupting these patterns, and it is going to take some time and practice to reprogram these patterns. So here's a couple of things that you can try to do to help with that process. Now, the first thing is writing a control list. So let's say my mind was swimming with all of these different thoughts, all of these different worries, things that are some are maybe my worries, maybe some are someone else's worries, maybe it is my gigantic, feels like never ending to do list. Maybe I'm feeling overwhelmed. I would sit down and I would write down, brain dump out every little thing that is on your mind, everything. significant or insignificant. Let it all out of your head. And then have a look at that list and go through and highlight what you actually have control over. Because if you don't have control over something, then what the work you need to be doing there is on acceptance. Even though I can't control this person's reaction, even though I can't control their decisions, even though I can't control the world around me, I choose to accept this today. And I say that even though, as you do a setup statement on the side of your hand tapping, even though I can't control this. And so then when you look at the list of things that you can actually control, you can then go off and make plans. You can put strategic action into place. And your brain will start to relax knowing that you are doing something about the things that you can control. Now, also for the things that you cannot control, you may like to close your eyes and visualize that you are blowing them away from your body, blowing them out of your mind. See them floating along the wind like a leaf. The things that you cannot control. The next thing I want to talk to you about is something that I teach clients who are overwhelmed with stress and worrisome thoughts, and that is a technique called worry time. Now, worry time is something that you may be able to, you should be able to Google, you should be able to look it up, but if it is something that you would like help implementing, then this is something we can do one-on-one together. Worry time is basically an allocated time, a designated time each week, or maybe even each day, depending on where you are at with your thoughts, that you allocate to the worry. You allocate to dealing with the worry. So you might carry a little notepad around, or a little, might have your app on your phone ready, your notes app. And if something pops into your head that you need to worry about, or you feel like you need to worry about, you ask yourself this one question. Do I need to deal with this right now? And really analyze that question, because, don't overanalyze that question, because is it an urgent life or death, this needs to be solved in the next 2 minutes or the world's going to implode type moment? Or is this something that you can allocate to worry time? So when allocating it to worry time, and you'll know the difference, by the way. You will know the difference, even though your brain might be saying, no, this is urgent. We need to solve all of the world's problems right now. The reality is, the problems to be solved right now in this moment might be, how are you responding to this time-sensitive email? How are you going to convince your child to put their shoes on so you can get out of the house? What decision are you going to make to escape danger? These are the sorts of in-the-moment decisions, okay? If it's not an in-the-moment decision, we allocate it to worry time, and you schedule this time into your calendar. And you commit yourself to this time, and it doesn't need to be forever. It's until your brain starts to let go of these excessive worries. And so you may sit down once a day, once every second day, once a week, once a fortnight, as you get better at this, with your little worry list or your long worry list. And you look at these things, and again, you are going to return to what is in my control and what is not in my control. And you are doing this at a specific time of the day. Okay, so you're not doing this all day long. So you've got your worry time, what's in my control, what's not in my control. You may also like to look at your list and say, is this even still relevant? And so you're crossing off the things that are not in your control. You're crossing off the things that are no longer relevant. Perhaps it felt really urgent in that moment to worry about whether something was going to happen safely or not. But in the end, it's happened, and it's been and it's happened, and you can't go back and change it. So it is no longer a relevant worry. Perhaps you were worried about a conversation because you were triggered by that conversation. And so you were giving a lot of your time and energy into something that has already passed, that you can't change. And now that you've cooled down a little bit, now that you've had some reflection time and you can see that you had an emotional response to something, it doesn't bother you anymore. So, what is still relevant? And then, and this is really important, let's say you've set yourself 20 minutes of worry time. You've set your timer, you don't go over that 20 minutes. Then what you will do is you will have a look at what's left on your list and you will start to formulate a action plan, a little bit like your control list. Your action plan, and again, don't overcomplicate it. If something is within your control, what are some reasonable steps that you can take just now? Because you can also revisit this worry another time. But what are some things that you can do for now to help move this worry along? And sometimes you may find that just the simple act, a little bit like when your head is swimming and you write a to-do list. And then your brain starts thinking, okay, well, I'm pretty supported. I've got it all out on a list. I'm not likely to forget it. And it just opens up some mental space for other things to come in. It's a little bit like that with your worries. You've allocated them to worry time. You've set a time aside to deal with it. It does not need to consume all of your attention, all of your mental energy. Do you know something that somebody taught me? One of my mentors taught me, and this is brilliant, and I'm going to teach it to you right now, is to think about your mental energy as if you are having, let's say every day you wake up with $100 mental dollars. And where you put your thoughts, where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what you're spending your money on. And if you're thinking about something that isn't your worry, something that's out of your control, just imagine you're giving that $2, $5, $10. And by midday, you're broke. So where do you want to be putting your mental money, your mental energy? Where do you want to be putting that into? And finally, the last thing that I want to address is daily regulation. Now, you know I love EFT tapping. I will always be an advocate for tapping. Other regulation tools may look like meditation, breath work, gentle movement. So there's lots of other tools that you can look up. You can Google, you can learn. You can learn them in my Thrive membership. Lots of different tools that you can learn to support your nervous system and come out of your stress response. Now, the reason that this is important is because when you are in this cycle of worry and consuming thoughts, these thoughts have a direct impact on your nervous system. And when we are in these cycles of worry, then our nervous system is dysregulated because we're in a stress state. So, and we probably don't even realize that, because to be honest, for a lot of us, we're so used to living in that state that it actually doesn't feel any different. And so if you think about the long-term health impacts of stress, okay, there is hundreds of diseases and illnesses that are now being linked back to stress. If you think about the short-term physical and mental and emotional impacts of stress, brain fog, upset tummies, being run down, migraine, anxiety, overwhelm, mood changes, impact on appetite, impact on sleep. You think about these short-term changes that happen because of being in our sympathetic nervous system. And you think about these short-term changes that happen as a follow-on effect from being in that nervous system. You know, you may feel like your heart is racing. You may feel a little lightheaded. You may have these physical symptoms happening. If you are in this state of stress all the time, or for the majority of the time, because your stress is coming from somewhere internal, it is coming from the thoughts in your head. You don't escape it. There is no clear ending to your stress. So your nervous system is not regulating itself. And so intentionally, and I know you've heard me say this, intentionally choosing daily regulation is going to help these worries dramatically. Because as your nervous system calms, as you start telling yourself through your nervous system, through this regulation, that you are not living in the woods being chased by a tiger, that you are actually safe. Okay, you are physically safe. You have some control over your thoughts. As you continue to intervene this stress response, your ability to cope, that threshold of coping, is going to increase. Now, the beauty of using something like EFT tapping for your daily regulation is that because we combine the physical tapping, so the stimulating of these acupressure points, with words, okay, so with something that is maybe challenging us, bothering us, that we're worrying about, because we are doing that, we are bringing safety to these words as the tapping stimulates a calming signal that's sent up to our fight or flight response. And so things that you may be spending time worrying and obsessing over that may be causing you an emotional reaction, that may be causing you emotional distress, you are going to basically, and if you can imagine like a cord being attached from the thought that you're thinking to the feeling that you feel when you think that thought, you're going to go ahead and cut those cords. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to desensitize triggers. And so as you are regulating your nervous system, you are also teaching your mind that some of those worries are safe. And that, again, is going to increase your capacity for coping. It is going to increase that threshold, that daily threshold that you have for what you can take in, what you can handle, what you can think about before, or what you can deal with before you lose your mind. It is going to help that. So to recap, our 3 strategies that you can choose, you can try. Number 1 is making your control list, or just asking yourself, do I have control over this situation? Number 2 is worry time. If your thoughts are consuming, if the worry is consuming, then implement this worry time practice. Number 3 is your daily regulation to support your nervous system and also to help bring safety to those ongoing thoughts and worries. And you will find that they'll be much easier to identify. Now, those are just 3 of my favorite strategies. I will throw in a 4th, but I'm not going to go into detail of it. And that is just mindfulness as well. Learning mindfulness as a tool that you live by, rather than just a technique that you are using, but as something that you actually implement into your daily life, is going to really help you to be able to observe thoughts and help you to be able to sit with the thoughts and observe them from a place of kindness and compassion, and observe them for what they are, which again, as I said at the very beginning, are thoughts. Okay. So there's a bonus thing for you to go and for you to learn. Now, if you would like any more information about managing your daily stress, if the stress is really, really overwhelming, then we can work one-on-one together to get you through that. If you would like some help with your daily regulation, that nervous system self-care, then you might like to have a look at Thrive, which is my self-care membership for stress, anxiety management, and emotional support. Or you may like to join me in our next upcoming EFT Empowerment Circle. So EFT tapping has been proven to lower cortisol in the body by around 43% on average in just 1 hour. Now that is huge. If you think about the fact that cortisol is supposed to spike, around that 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, so we can wake up, we can be alert. But when we stay in a state of stress, our cortisol might also spike up throughout the day, times that it's not necessarily meant to be spiking. So tapping is going to help lower that cortisol. It's going to bring calm and safety to your mind and body, help to rewire and reprogram some of those thought patterns that you may have. And we can do all of this in our monthly EFT Empowerment Circle. So you can come and try a one-off circle. This month, March 2023, is the last month that it will be $19. So stay tuned for some new pricing after that. But I will pop a link link in the show notes, in the notes here for anybody who wants to go and register, book your virtual seat. Even if you have never tapped before, you are most welcome. This month's theme, so March's theme, is managing your daily stress and worries. And if you are listening to this beyond the 8th of March, then know that a tapping circle happens every second Wednesday of the month. So every month, second Wednesday, we have a different topic each month, but there are also ways that I can get you access to the replay vault, which means that you can not only access this one, but all of the topics that we have covered in the past. So until then, I would love to see you at a tapping circle. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I would love to know which of these 3 you are going to try to help minimize your worries.
You have been listening to Alive and Thriving by Inspired Life Collective. Did you know that you can help us to impact even more women on their well-being journey simply by subscribing to this podcast and leaving a review? If stress or anxiety, life or business has got you feeling inside like you are just busting to come back to life, then I invite you to book a discovery call with me so we can chat about how Inspired Life Collective private and online services might be able to support you through your journey. I am so grateful to you for being here and having me in your ears. So until the next episode, just remember that you were born to thrive.